Hi everyone, my name is Emily and I'm the young adult librarian at the Rock Island Public Library, and I'm pre-recording this week's book talk because I took a couple days off for my birthday. So I'm on a brief staycation, but have a couple books for you that you might want to check out. Also, thanks to everybody who did winter reading. I'm not sure at this time if we actually met our ambitious goal of 200,000 minutes, but I know we came very close last I had looked. So yeah, thanks for doing that. And books I have today, they are both available through our Boundless app. So if you've not downloaded Boundless, this is the app that used to be called Access 360, and they've kind of fixed some of the issues, I think, that existed with Access 360. Like, sometimes things don't necessarily load as fast as I would like, but I don't have like the app crashing the way it used to. So check that out. And our first book this time is The Last Policeman. And this is the first in a trilogy by Ben H. Winters. He's written a number of books that I enjoyed. Let's see, yeah, this one though, it's from over 10 years ago, and Quirk was kind enough to send me an advanced reader's copy, like, again, when this was coming out. And love this cover, but I also love the cover that is on Boundless. Like, there's some very good cover art for this series. And in this book, you meet Hank Palace, and he is a detective, and he is living in a world in which there's an asteroid, and this asteroid is called 2011 GV sub 1. And what everybody knows because of this asteroid is that we've only got 6 months to live. In the world of this book, this asteroid is coming and there's nothing that can be done about this, and it is going to, upon impact, do like even worse damage than what happened when the dinosaurs about 66 million years ago experienced a similar asteroid-based event. So, I mean, Hank has just recently become a detective, and this is, it's described as a pre-apocalyptic thriller. And so you have society sort of gradually breaking down. I mean, as the asteroid gets closer, and 3 books in this series, so by the last book in the trilogy, yeah, the asteroid, it's right there, it's up in the sky, it's about to hit. And people are just trying to figure out what to do next, because there's not going to be life as we know it in 6 months. Most people on Earth will be killed. Maybe even not immediately, but in the aftermath of this, because certainly like what happened with the dinosaurs, we had the asteroid hit, and yes, if you were near the impact site, okay, that's basically instant fire and death. But there's also going to be the issue of crops not being able to grow. The sun will just not be powerful enough to reach the Earth because there's going to be so much just different sort of detritus in the atmosphere. And so people are doing different things. Everybody is dealing with this differently. And I mean, people are going to church or their local synagogue or whatever religion they believe in, and people are leaving their jobs, obviously. Like, people are thinking, all right, I have 6 months to live, probably. I need to act now to do the stuff I was putting off till later, and I gotta do my bucket list right now. But Hank, he's not doing this thing where he's just like leaving. No, he is still figuring out like what it is to be a detective. And so he decides, all right, yeah, I'm going to solve this murder. Except the murder that he is investigating, like, he's investigating a death where, given the current climate, there are multiple suicides per week. And Hank, he recognizes, hang on, this looks suspicious. Like, this was staged to look like a suicide. I believe it was a murder. And so, I mean, because Hank is the only one who's really on this, because his coworkers, even the ones who agree with him and think he has a point, they're like, okay, but we're all gonna be dead in 6 months anyway. Why are you bothering with this? Why are you even investigating? And I mean, for Hank, it's sort of this question of, well, okay, but it's always the right time to do the right thing, and this person who was killed deserves some kind of justice anyway, and so he wants to uncover the truth. And so this first book is kind of exploring civilization at this moment in the world of this book where, okay, 6 months, if people mostly agreed on this, if they recognized, obviously, in years since we've seen, because this came out in 2012, so we've seen that sometimes people will look at a world-changing event and say, no, that's not real, that's made up. And you get a little bit of that in this book. What I will say is by the third book, this is slightly a spoiler, but where it ends is Hank ends up staying with an Amish family. And most of the family, because they're Amish, they don't know about the asteroid. And there's like one of the teenage kids, clearly, Hank kind of clocks this, like, oh, she knows what's happening. Like, she knows what's coming and what the light in the sky means. And it's like, she probably had a radio, you know? She was rebelling a little bit as an Amish teen, like, I'm gonna listen to the radio. And that's how she heard about this. So, different people reacting in different ways to this coming cataclysm. And it's just a very interesting book because, again, you get a lot of different characters behaving in different ways because, of course, and throughout the book, like, I think there's just 2 parts. No, there's more than that. There's part 4. So, throughout the book, depending on what time, like, what the date is and what the time is, you get, like, the right ascension, the declination, like, all that different stuff, information about the asteroid and its course, and the Earth, and how these 2 objects are going to eventually interact. So, if you like, I guess I was going to say sci-fi, but that part of it is really not a big part of the story. Like, most of it is, okay, time is passing, and this main character, is he going to be able to solve this case? Even if he does that matter? Like, you as a reader kind of, you could decide for yourself, like, does this one action make a difference in a world like this? Like, if society is crumbling anyway, like, what do we owe to each other? And so it's fascinating. And again, 3 of these, I'm somebody who, I like mysteries, and there have been times in my life where I've read a lot of them, and I don't think I'm in one of those right now, but I like this trilogy, and they're all on Boundless, so check them out. Next, this is a graphic novel, and the author and I kind of have very similar hair at this moment. In fact, quite similar hair. This is Tomboy, and this is a book by Liz Prince. And in this book, you meet the author, and the whole idea is she is somebody like me, where her relationship with gender is complicated because there are these ideas about what a girl is supposed to look like or do, and not all of us are interested in that. And so you get into, certainly as you're growing up, there's different times in life where this is harder. Like, as an adult, it's like, yeah, I can kind of wear what I want and do what I want. But when you're a kid, I mean, Liz writes about making friends, having to deal with bullying, but also like growing up, and she loved punk rock. And the idea here is she loved like having just outfits that made her feel like herself. And you can see, so like she kind of breaks this down in a lot of different sections of the book. Like, hey, this was my favorite outfit at this time in my life. And I love this because, yeah, there's just, clothes aren't necessarily for a lot of us about what people think you're supposed to wear, obviously. Like, most of us choose clothes based on like, okay, this makes me feel good. Like, I have my cat with books shirt on. Like, there's lots of different rainbow cats and rainbow books, and it's like, I like this shirt, it makes me feel good. But like, in this graphic memoir, I mean, Liz gets into just having people assume that she's a boy, or making fun of her when they realize she's a girl, for lots of different reasons. And this is in school, both like elementary and then junior high, and then beyond as an adult, as a young adult, and recognizing that, okay, people are just like this, and you just, I don't know, you can't, it's true that you can't control other people's reactions to you, but you can live your life and kind of just move through the world in a way that makes you feel comfortable by, I guess, in many cases, just wearing what you want, wearing what feels good, and being yourself even when other people are weird about this. So, I really like the art. I quite enjoyed this funny graphic memoir. And the whole thing is her life, like through, let's see, like we start, I guess you get different characters, like she dedicates the book to 3 strong women in her life. And she was born a year, 86, so she is a little bit older than me. But starting when Liz was very young, and going forward into the present day, like I think there's 13 chapters here, and she talks about how just in her life, certainly there are these ideas that, like, well, certainly sometimes gender is a reflection of not just yourself. I mean, it is, but we experience and we express gender in different ways. And some people will have this question of, oh, well, if you're not really, like, very feminine, isn't that just, like, internalized misogyny? Like, maybe you just don't like ideas about women, and it's like, well, I don't like the ways in which women are treated unequally in this world, but I don't think that makes me, like, I don't necessarily think I have to unpack some misogynist stuff. I think it's more just like, just because, you know, you don't want to wear makeup or you don't dress a certain way, that doesn't mean that you don't like being a woman. It just means whatever you're doing, that's how you're doing gender, and that's great. So throughout this book, you have Liz making new friends in different times and places in her life, and experiencing romance, and just sort of recognizing, like, okay, well, gender doesn't equal sexuality. And at one point she talks about the fact that, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not always challenging the social norm, I was buying into it. This idea that, like, oh, we think in pop culture, certainly guys are presented as being so cool historically, and women don't necessarily get the same agency or the same ability to just be cool characters beyond, like, oh, you need to be rescued or you're the love interest. Like, no, obviously, being a woman, there's more to it than that. So the book ends, I love this, because, like, she's walking and somebody says, how about you, sir? Free Metro newspaper? It's like, no thanks. And then it's like, sir? Still got it. So throughout her life, yeah, which I definitely sort of not agree. Well, yeah, I also share some of Liz's kind of fashion loves or choices, you know, like a skirt, t-shirt with leggings. Yeah, that's great. I very much jive with that. So if you like graphic novels, I would check this out. This book came out like The Last Policeman. It's been a few years, and I love the fact that this is not, oh, okay, yeah, this book is 10 years old this year, 2014. And of course, there's not gonna be a point, I think, in society ever where it's like, oh, we're done talking about gender. Like, we don't need to have this conversation anymore. Like, no, obviously we do, because people of different genders, they do encounter different treatment in life. Like, your experience of being alive is going to be different. And yeah, I really enjoy this story. This is a graphic novel that I've kept and enjoyed because, yeah, it spoke to me. Not the romance stuff so much, but just the idea that, okay, well, who am I? Because other people have their ideas and I have my own idea. Like, I'm just existing. And I'm not really interested in gender as a performance most of the time. Like, I'm a girl, but I'm not gonna, like, necessarily, like, I say this as somebody who, I wear a lot of skirts and dresses, but I don't wear makeup. And I think for some people there is this sort of difficulty, or, you know, there's this idea that being agender means, I guess, agender is different from a gender. Like, there's certain ideas about what you're supposed to be doing, and all of this is made up, really. I mean, gender is a lot like money, which is to say, it's a system that humans have been doing for a long time, but there's a lot of aspects of it that they're just sort of pretend, and we've all sort of agreed that, yeah, we're living within this framework, and we're acknowledging that this is an important part of people's lives, obviously, but not all of it is really like set in stone. Like it's not necessarily this thing where, oh yeah, it's definitely like this. Like, no, there's different rules for different people, certainly. Like with money, depending on how much of it you have, there's absolutely different rules. And depending on where you live and what your gender or gender expression is, yes, you're going to encounter very different treatment. So this is just one person and her life experiences and what growing up looked like for her, like late 80s to 90s and then early into the century. So if you'd like to read these books, they are both available through Boundless. And again, this app, it used to be Access 360. I will say, I think there's more titles, or I'm finding things more easily. Like if you had a hard time navigating Access 360 back when it was that, I would maybe check out Boundless now because it's a little easier to search or just like narrow down the category of book that you want to look for. So check it out. And thank you for watching. I will see you again live next week.